Only 3 weeks, South Carolinians, the voters here, will begin the process of selecting our next governor. And tonight on this stage, we have all 7 candidates in the race.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Judy Gatson along with Ben Hoover. Let's go ahead and meet the candidates joining us tonight in Drayton Hall. Earlier this evening, or later this evening, I should say, we'll have the Democratic candidates joining us on stage. But tonight, we're starting with the Republicans first. First, we want to introduce Lieutenant Governor Bauer. We want to introduce Congressman Gresham Barrett, South Carolina Attorney General Henry McMaster, and State Representative Nikki Haley.
Now, since the June 8th primary, of course, will be split between Republicans and Democrats, we're going to split the debate tonight. The Republicans will go first, and then the Democrats will go for the second 30 minutes in this debate.
Now, we would like to let you know that the Palmetto Family Council is sponsoring tonight's debate. However, WIS News 10 has complete editorial control over the questions. The candidates will each have 1 minute to answer the question that's been asked, and there will be 30 minutes or 30 seconds, let me get that straight, 30 seconds for rebuttal at our discretion. If the candidates are ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first question is to Ms. Haley. You have said in the past that you did not vote for stimulus money. Friday, Mr. Barrett's campaign issued a news release saying that you voted twice to take the stimulus money. It also said that you supported stimulus spending, quote, every step of the way, and only changed your mind when you announced your candidacy for governor. Obviously, you both can't be right. So for the record, please make it clear for voters tonight, did you or did you not vote for stimulus money?
Thank you, Judy, and for the record, I'm right. But I'll tell you why. You know, as everybody up here on the stage understands what procedural votes are. We had procedural votes leading up to it, but the fact is, on May 12th, the final vote on the stimulus, I voted against. The final vote on the budget that contained the stimulus, I voted against. And not only that, I asked for 24 hours so that everybody in the chamber could actually spend time looking at that budget, so we knew exactly what we were going to have. I have consistently opposed that stimulus since then, and my opponents have come out and said they all favored taking the stimulus. So I've been clear from that front. The vote is on the record. It's also on my website for everybody to see. And, you know, I said then, and I agree now, all it did was run up the credit card debt, and 2 years from now we'll have less money to pay for it.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Haley. We're going to go next to Gresham Barrett. Our question is, you have really led the charge to criticize Nikki Haley and her opposition to federal stimulus dollars. After Sarah Palin said that Haley, quote, had the backbone to vote against the stimulus, your campaign said that Haley, quote, has been disingenuous and misleading with voters, stating that she in fact voted for stimulus money at least twice. But you in fact voted for the Bush bailout. Is this a case of people who throw stones should not live in glass houses?
Absolutely not, Ben. I've been very upfront about my votes. There were actually 2 votes. And let me take you back just a second. September of 2009. Excuse me, 2008. The economy was in tough shape. There were actually 2 votes. The first vote, I voted no for the President Bush rescue plan or bailout. The second one, I did. And the reason I did, we had men and women across this nation come to me. President Bush got involved, Vice President Cheney, Secretary Hank Paulson, and said the economy was going to melt down if we didn't take some action. Men and women were going to pull out their credit card, stick it in the slide, and nothing was going to come out. Now, I will say to you straight-faced that has this bill been implemented like it should have been? Absolutely not. But nobody has worked harder to ensure that those funds are returned to the American taxpayer, and we never do it again. It's not the same case because I never said I didn't vote for it. Unfortunately, Ms. Haley did. I mean, she said she did not vote for the stimulus, but the Journal is very clear. In March of 09, March the 9th and March the 10th, she actually voted for the stimulus plan.
Let me ask you this, though. Are you splitting hairs? Because Mrs. Haley says that she was in fact doing procedural votes at that point. Are you splitting hairs when you think about it in those terms?
Well, I understand the way the procedure works because I was not only in the legislature at the state level but the federal level. And the fact of the matter, procedural votes do matter. And the record is very clear.
Let's give Ms. Haley 30 seconds to follow up.
Thank you, and I don't think we need to play this game much longer. I think the truth is he admitted that it was in March. What matters to the people of this state, what matters to the people of this country is the final vote that affects the people. When I talked to Senator DeMint, when I talked to Governor Sanford, and I had all of the information, my final vote was against the stimulus. My final vote was against the budget that included the stimulus. Congressman Barrett's final vote was for a Wall Street bailout that had no accountability. You can't deny the facts on that.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. Our next question is for Mr. Bauer. You have an ad from your campaign that says that some people have no intention of ever getting off the, quote, government gravy train, and that we can't continue to have generational welfare. But South Carolina has one of the strictest limits on receiving assistance in the nation, and families here may not receive assistance for more than 24 months in any 10-year period. So let's be clear tonight, what government programs are you interested in cutting?
Well, when you refer to government programs, you refer to only two, which is about 7%. But there are a multitude. There's 93 other % of government programs, whether you call it food stamps, whether you call it rental assistance, whether you call it power assistance. Look, we've spent more on trying to fix generational welfare in this country, 2.5 times what we spent on all wars since the beginning of this country's foundation. And so I know the media loves to say, oh, no, we don't have a problem. Yes, we do. And nobody's checking the system. The system that was put in place, the welfare reform, we don't have the money now to enforce it. Do your due diligence. Nobody's checking on it. It's an automated system. If you don't call in, nobody calls, nobody follows it up. And so we continue to dole out more and more. Welfare rolls are up 38% in the last 2 years. Food stamps up 50%. The people of South Carolina are no longer going to have the resources to pay for this. And so we've got to have an adult conversation that includes dialogue on how to get people off of it. And lastly, I'd say we're doing a disservice to the people if we don't show them a vehicle to get out of poverty. So the people of South Carolina aren't shown the real vehicle to get out of the current situation that they're in.
Well, as a brief follow-up, let me ask you this. What do you define then as generational welfare if in this state you can't be on public assistance for more than 24 months out of a 10-year period? And what specific programs do you want to cut? You say there are all these other programs out of there. What cuts do you want to make?
Look, there are people that have been on there. Their grandparents were on it. Their parents were on it. They're on it. And I know the media.
Do you have statistics on that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'd love to share them with you. I got a whole page that I've actually issued and sent over to WIS. I hope you'll put it on your show, because I continue to see the media say we don't have a problem. You ask the working folks if they've seen people abusing.
Well, you say generational problem, though. In the last 2 years, I don't think anybody disputes that welfare assistance has gone up in this state, obviously connected to the recession. But when you talk about generational welfare, and I guess what we want to get to the bottom line tonight, Mr. Bauer, is what do you want to cut?
I want to cut all programs that you continually see people living off of year after year, generation after generation. We can't afford to pay for it. We don't have the finances to pay for them. Our budget's going to be cut again, and so we've got to have a dialogue. So it's every program. It's not one. Look, some people need help. And there are disabled people that will never be able to care for themselves. But there are some people that as long as the benefits are out there, they will never lift themselves up. We have to have a system whereby you tier it and you get people off the programs. You say, look, we're going to give you an incentive to get that job. A lot of people won't take the job because they take a pay cut by taking the job. They don't get as much as they're getting from the government. So tier it to where they at least keep part of their benefits, but it encourages them to provide for themselves.
Thank you so much.
Let's move on to Mr. McMaster. You are next. Today, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Dan Cooper said, quote, more budget cuts will have to be made because of a lack of support in the legislature to impose more fines and fees. If you become governor, how will you generate more revenue immediately? And by that, sir, we mean what will you do in the first year in office to generate more revenue?
Well, I'm glad you called on me. I was getting a little scared sitting here between Nikki and Gresham for just a second there. Well, there is no magic pot of money, Dan, as you know. And what I would do in the first year, in my inaugural address in the first state of the state, is say that South Carolina wants to be the most business-friendly state in the country. We're certainly not going to raise taxes. And all these fees are just like another tax on the people. But what we have to do is institute a strategy of economic development, which I have, that includes a strong governor leading this state globally, not only nationally, but globally. We have to get our taxes down, comprehensive tax reform, down lower, fatter, and fairer, lower, flatter, and fairer. And I think an announcement that is going to be done, backed up by legislative leaders, business leaders from around the state, I think we can send the right message right then immediately. But what I would do is lead, and I would market South Carolina and our wonderful global assets globally. I want to show the world what South Carolina can do.
Sir, let me ask you, though, we're talking immediate, and a lot of these jobs plans that a lot of the candidates have would take a long time for them to really start generating some extra revenue. Is there anything that you could do immediately if you're saying no taxes and no fees and no fines? Is there anything immediately that you could do?
There is one thing that could be done immediately, and I tried to do it last year and the year before that, and it's one of the few things that I've asked the legislature for that I have not been able to get done through the legislature, and that is to abolish parole in South Carolina and create a middle court process midway between jail and probation.